Welcome to FY028. This is Inquiry Based Learning. My name is Justin Luca. I wish to welcome you to the module. So this module is for foundation year students, and it's going to be run and directed by myself and my colleague Nick Day. And you can see on the slide in front of you, we've put my email address and Nick's email address on there so that you can contact us directly if you wish to. Now, obviously, at the moment, because of the situation with the pandemic and everything and lockdown, this module is going to be delivered remotely, and we have chosen to actually record our materials and present them to you in a recorded form. And we think the recorded form works quite well because it means that you can go over them multiple times and you can study the materials that we provide, and you can still contact us, of course, and talk to us directly if you have questions or queries or need extra support. But it does mean that in terms of the bulk materials, the actual core of the module, you can just review those like I said, as many times as you like and go over them in detail. So we're hoping that provides a solid sort of platform for this kind of remote delivery. Now, the whole point of my little introduction here is just to really give you an overview of what the module is going to be and what it covers and how it's going to work. So it's just a general introduction at this point, as I would do if you were face-to-face with me. So normally, the first thing to say is this module is normally one that we teach face-to-face, obviously, but we normally just do an hour each week with you as a group. And it's more of a sort of discussion-led module in that we discuss the project you're going to be working on, and we give you help and advice with that. But as the title suggests, or should suggest to you, inquiry-based learning, it is about you making an inquiry and learning something about the process of looking through that inquiry and working on a small project, which is an inquiry-based project. So it's very much over to yourselves in terms of the project work that you're doing, with us kind of guiding and steering you and introducing you to useful research topics as we go along. So I'll talk more about that in a moment. As we're doing the remote delivery for this, and even if we were doing face-to-face, the hub of this module is centered around the Blackboard module area. So the Blackboard module we have is where we're going to put up materials and resources and things for you to have a look at and use and support you with. And that's really what I want to show you now, so that we can sort of go through where things are and how to access that important material. So this is Blackboard, as you can see on my browser here. I'm obviously logged in as me, and I see more than you will see. Now this module, and it's quite interesting actually to see what I'm seeing perhaps, because you can see straight away in the module materials section here, I've got folders for things like aviation and tourism, business. There's the computing, which is what you will see. You'll only see that. I also have dance and fashion and all sorts of things in here. This is because this particular module is a shared module. It's a module that goes out as a common module for the foundation year, which includes students on multiple courses. So we use this as a kind of hub repository of all the materials for each course, and you each have your own folder. So when you go in, you'll be under the banner of computing, because all of your courses come under our general computing area, and I've listed them all here as well on the computing folder so that you can see that you are indeed in the right place. Incidentally, if you're seeing this video and you're not a computing student, you're not on any of these courses, then please contact me directly, and it may be that you just need to be moved over in the groups to one of the other groups. So we have a list of groups, and there's quite a lot of students overall, over in excess of 100 on this module as a whole. So they divide up the groups sort of manually, and it may be that you've just been assigned onto the wrong group there. So no big deal. We can easily assign you back, but obviously we don't know unless you give us a shout. So please shout me if you are not a computing student, but you're seeing computing there. Also shout me, obviously, if you are a computing senior student seeing something else, although I suspect this email probably wouldn't, with the link to this video, wouldn't get to you. But if it has, and you're going, hang on a minute, I don't see computing, I see something else, then again, also give me a shout and we can sort that bit out. But anyway, so the module area is shared, but what we're doing is we're putting all the materials that are related to obviously yourselves in computing into this computing folder, and we're making it so that only you see the computing folder and you don't see anything else, so you're not confused by that. So inside the computing folder is where I have put all the materials that I control and all the important information that we have within here. So it's probably worth having a look at this bit first. The first thing that we see at the top there is an assessment date. Now I've put that front and center so that everybody is very clear on when the assessment needs to be handed in. Now I appreciate I haven't actually explained what the assessment is and you haven't necessarily looked at the brief or anything, and we haven't talked about that in detail, but I think it's important to have the date in mind, because normally that's the first thing that the question that students ask is, well, when am I handing this in? So as soon as I explain what it is, they go, when do I hand it in? So it's front and center there, and should you forget when that is or anything, then you can always come and you know how to find it straight in front of you in that folder. So we're looking at Friday the 14th of May. So it seems like quite a long way off at the moment, and I suppose it is at the very start, but it will quickly get there. So it's effectively module week 12. So this being module week 1. We don't include the 3 weeks of Easter as module weeks because, of course, you're not, well, you wouldn't be in the university if we were in normal times. So we don't include those 3 weeks. So it's 12 plus 3 weeks really in terms of the total length, which means you've got 15 weeks, which is an enormous amount of time really for an assignment like this. And again, you haven't seen the detail yet, but it's 2,000 words. It's not a big thing, but it does require due diligence and care in the presentation and creation of it, obviously. So you've got a long time to do it, and hopefully it should be fairly, I like to think, straightforward. I think this is a fairly straightforward module, and it just teaches you some research skills along the way. If we come on down underneath that, we have this thing that says coursework 1, CW1 themes for students in the Department of Computing, and there is a PDF here, and it says during this module you'll be asked to undertake a research project and write a research report, which is option A on the assignment brief. Focusing on the topic within your core subject area, you should select one topic from the themes in the list attached here. Now, before I look at those theme lists, it's probably at this point is a good point to talk about the assessment, the assignment for this module. Now, the assignment brief itself, which is a document that tells you what the assignment is located in the side menu here under assignment brief. Now, this is the bit that everybody sort of sees the same thing. So if I go back to assignment brief, all those students on other courses, not of computing, will also see the same assignment brief because the module is the same for everybody in terms of the assignment. So the assignment brief is there, and that's written centrally. I've also put my themes in here as well. So you've got just a copy of that themes list underneath there because it's related to our assignment. So I put it there as well, just for belt and braces. But the assignment brief, let's have a look at that. So we'll just open up the document that's attached to that one. So like I said, this is an assignment that goes out to everybody doing the inquiry-based learning module. And you can see this is the assignment brief here. Now, the assignment itself and the module is led by Sarah Eaglesfield. So Sarah is the sort of coordinator of everything to do with the foundation year and all the modules. But for this module, obviously, we have ourselves, myself and Nick, as tutors to look after yourselves as computing students within it. So we're your sort of main point of contact for this particular module, and Sarah is the main point of contact for the foundation year as a kind of whole. So it's a little bit of dual responsibility, I suppose. So her name is on the brief because essentially it's a module area, but we're running it for the computing students. You can see the assessment weighting there. That means 100% means that there's only one assignment. This is it. It's one assignment. You hand it in, and we hope that you pass with it. So there's no second chances with this particular module. It's just one shot, and you've got to get it right. But you've got plenty of time to do it, and I think it's very manageable. So the date is then here again, the submission date for Friday the 14th of May, and we'll talk about how you submit in a bit, but that's there. And then we have the actual assignment task underneath. So in this assignment, you will undertake an inquiry-based project on a topic related to your subject area and produce a project report. So it's a mini, I call it a mini project. I call it desktop research because all you're expected to do here is research by basically using your computer. In normal times, you'd be using sort of other resources like the library, physical library here on campus, but at this time you can do everything remotely and electronically, really, using resources out there via our library services or via other services that we can direct you to. So it's very much down to you to be reviewing and looking and finding information and bringing that back and reporting on what you find, really, in relation to a chosen topic, which is my topic list that I'm going to give to you. So it says the nature and topic project will be negotiated with your supervisor. Well, we provide a list and you select from that list. So there's no real sort of negotiation. It's one off of a list that we've selected for you. So we've given you 10 different topics to pick from. That's a nice selection, and it gives you some choice. And they're quite broad topic areas, so you have some choice within that and how you want to address it. And that'll be down to yourself. That's a decision you can make. But we do insist on you going underneath one of those 10 topic themes because we have to keep some boundary on it, really. So depending on your subject, you may be asked to produce the report in 3 forms. Now, this is what I refer to as we're doing A. So A is conducting and reporting on a piece of academic or professional related research. So we're doing that. The producing an artifact, creating a performance, those are really for other course areas. They're not something that we are asking you to do in any form, and we don't want you to do because they are for other things. So, you might have art students doing this module as well, and they might produce a painting, that's an artifact, or they might produce a sculpture or something. We're not asking you to do that, obviously. And the other one is performance, because we have dancers and things on doing the same module as well, and they might perform a performance piece of dance. And obviously this doesn't relate to computing in any form, but the options are there simply because this is an assignment that goes out to multiple courses. So it's not for you to choose A, B, or C. It is for us to tell you that you are doing A. So rule out B and C. You're doing A, and you're doing a professional related piece of research or academic research for us. So it then says details of the expectations for each type of project will be shared with you. Well, that's what I'm sharing now. And it is expected that the report, including other requirements such as we're not doing the artifact or that. It's just a report. So it's 2,000 words report is what we are looking for. Now, in terms of 2,000 words, the other question I immediately get is, can it be more than 2,000 words? I do hope I don't get the question that says, can it be less than 2,000 words? When we say 2,000 words, we mean 2,000 words. We don't mean less than 2,000 words. So let's just get that one straight. To start with, we mean 2,000 words, and I think 2,000 words is quite a small amount to write for this sort of work, especially over the sort of 15 weeks time that you have to do it in. But so I do mean 2,000 words. If you end up writing more than 2,000 words, I am genuinely happy to look at that. The idea of having a word count is normally to give you a limitation so that you write and draft your work within that limitation, and you improve your work and refine it and draft it back down to a good piece of writing. So a good piece of writing should be succinct, express itself very efficiently and effectively, and having a limitation on the words can really try to help you to do that. So it's there as an aid. Not as a total restriction. However, if students sometimes get very keen on their research, they want to do more, they want to include other things, they've got some really good detailed stuff that they want to add, then I'm of the opinion that I am happy to receive more than the word count. So, however, I do need to put a bit of a caveat on that. We'd normally say plus 10%, and I think that's kind of a fair amount. So that's it's about 200 words, isn't it? So 200 words more is definitely fine. So 2,200. I would personally accept up to 2.5. So maybe a bit more, like 20%. really. But anything within there should be fine. If you're getting sort of up to like 3,000 words, then I think there's definitely some revision you can do, and you should be able to edit that down and rejig it to make it much more succinct. And I think you're probably getting a bit inflated, and that wouldn't be so great. So I don't mind a few more words than the 2,000, but I will insist on the 2,000 words overall, because I think anything less and it's becoming very flimsy. So that's the detail on the word counts. So you're expected to the report, including any other requirements, so that's the words. You're expected to devote substantial time to completing the project independently, in addition to any scheduled teaching in the module. So yes, so it is an independent project. We are supporting you to write your report and to carry out your research and that you'll use as the basis for that report. So we're trying to give you helpful advice and guidance each week that will help you to work on this report that you're producing for us. But it's down to you to obviously sit down and do that work and get that written out and be making progress on it steadily each week. So you know, I'm quite sort of adamant that when you come to university and you start writing this sort of research, your research is a key component of being a university student, that you need to embrace that and kind of get into it and take responsibility for it for yourself. There's, you know, the best way to kind of learn this stuff is to do, and the best way to do is just to do and get going. Of course, that doesn't mean we're not going to help and support you if you need help and support, but you have to kind of come to us. The other thing about being a university student and a higher education student is that you should be able to ask us questions. You should be not afraid to send me an email with a solid question, and I should be able to answer that. So when I say send us an email with a question, I mean a specific question. What do I need to do here? Not just what do I need to do generally. I've started and tried for myself, and this is where I've got to now. Can I have some guidance and help with this particular issue and things like that? Because that's a dialogue that we can have together to work on your work. Anyway, I'm sure we'll get into the swing of it as we go. So it does take a substantial amount of time to completing it. So allow each week a certain amount of time in your week to work on this assignment, basically. We have some dates. So the end date, obviously the 14th of May date, the hand-in date is the significant one, because that's when you hand it in and submit your work and it's formally recognised. There are two other suggested dates for reviewing your work. So we've got a week 6 date here, which is the 12th of March, and we then have kind of an update project date at the end of March as well, on the 22nd. So I think it's important to recognise that these are sort of points that we're just marking out halfway through the module, basically, the 12 weeks. We're saying if you send us a copy of what you're working on at that point, we'll give you some direct feedback on that. We call it formative feedback. Formative feedback isn't actually, it sounds like it should be formal because it's formative, but formative is actually a more sort of general term that we use. So it means that we are going to give you some feedback which is more general, and it's not assessed at that point. It's just our thoughts on what you've done at that point to help you. The summative feedback is what we provide when you submit your work formally at the end, and it's marked. So there's a little bit of a difference there. But the formative feedback that we give you is just a helpful feedback that you can have from us on your piece of writing at that point. Obviously, you can ask questions as you go and show us things and stuff like that. But that's just a point that's kind of mentioned there, week 6, so that you can get something a bit more directed from us. So those are kind of keys. We've got some learning outcomes here. Hopefully those are going to be covered. And we talk about referencing as well. Referencing is really important. Obviously, I'm going to be talking about that in great detail in one of the weeks. I'll talk about it now, just generally, just to give you a heads up on that. One of the key sort of tenets of writing academically at for higher education, higher levels, is that you reference all the sources that you are using within your work. So we're asking you to find information from other sources, books, journals, textbooks, information on databases and so on. And when you're finding that information, you need to reference it within your work to say, this is where I get this from and this is where it's coming from. So that's a really, really crucial thing. I do find that sometimes students come thinking that they can reference because they've been shown things in college or school or other places at sort of lower levels. And sometimes at other lower levels, they try to do a bit of referencing, but they kind of dumb it down, and by dumbing it down they actually make it completely inaccurate and wrong. Unfortunately, it's just one of those things where I think to try and be they thinking they're being helpful, they're not from our point of view, because they show students kind of poor ways to reference. It's sort of referencing, but it's not, which means it's not really referencing from our point of view. So we have a very specific style of referencing that we want you to use, and we will require you to use, and it's called Harvard. And Harvard is a referencing style which has a guide to it, and it's all laid out nicely so you can actually use it. It just means you have to use it in a specific way. Now, we don't give you that and then just say get on with it. We actually provide a site, Cite Them Right Online, which is a website, and that will tell you how to reference in Harvard, and it is a online guide to Harvard referencing. Now, in my book list, I've actually given you a link to the printed guide for that as well, and I do think that it's sometimes worth having that textbook next to you as well. I have the textbook actually on my desk all the time, and it is one of those things that is just a kind of key reference. Now, as you're starting out in university, you've got another 3 years to go. I think it's one of those sort of core textbooks that would be worth having. Although we've got the online access to the online version, I think having a textbook version, a printed version, is also very useful. So I'll show you that when we get to the books that I'm suggesting as well. And this gives you a reference, a desktop reference that you can use to know how to do the referencing correctly. It is just a process, just a procedure, putting your references into the sources you've been using. And like anything, any procedure, once you start using it, once you get familiar with it, it becomes very straightforward and simple to do, and you'll find yourself just doing it automatically in the end. So that's an important aspect that's noted here in the brief. So in terms of assessing your work, obviously we have criteria for that, and we can talk a bit that as we go through. So I don't want to go. I will go back over some details on the assignment as we go and relate to that. But the brief is just kind of giving you some brief information regarding that. So let's get back to the module area. So that's all in the assignment brief. So like I say, the themes are here as well. So I'll just have a quick look at the themes. So we're asking you to pick a theme to base your research on and your research report around. So of course we give you a list of themes, which are here, and there are 10 of them, and they're presented in this table. And you have the headings there and a description of broadly what they cover. So we've tried to cover all of our course areas, of course, with this. So you could choose to do artificial intelligence or machine learning and artificial intelligence. You could do something around cloud computing, which is obviously a very up and coming growing area of running software in cloud via networks. Computer architectures, which gets into what the base tenets of what a computer is and its components and how it works and so on. You could look at graphics and visualization, which might be an interest if you're doing sort of games areas. We do computer security, privacy, cryptography. Again, if you're thinking of cyber, you might do something related to cybersecurity. Databases and data mining, well, there isn't many applications out there that don't have databases behind them, and data mining is information developed in web development to scrape information from websites and so on. So again, kind of broad topic area that you might choose. Embedded computer systems. Well, computers, of course, aren't just in computers as we see them on like desktops and tablets and so on. They exist. Computational devices are used in all sorts of systems and areas. Embedded systems within telecommunications or aircrafts or all sorts of areas in engineering, for example. So you might choose to do something like that, system control systems and so on. Computer networks, so networks are what the world relies on, whether it be Wi-Fi or whether it be wired networks or Bluetooth or all sorts of things could be covered with networking. Operating systems, you might be interested specifically in Linux or Windows or iOS, Android. You know, those are core operating systems and how they work and operate and run. Software engineering, broad term, obviously anything to do with the development of software. That could include also web development within that. So I'm always asked, sometimes we get people who are interested in web development. They might be doing computing and web, one of our courses, and I say, oh, I'm really interested in web development. There doesn't seem to be anything on here. Well, software engineering kind of covers that. So you could, development of websites, development of web services. It's kind of software that runs via the web. So I include that within software engineering. So feel free, if you want to do something on software development, web development, software that runs via the web or online services, then that kind of comes under that topic as well. So like I said, these are broad topics, and they really do cover the sort of core areas within the computing as a whole. So we're not hampering you by giving you these topics. We're just keeping you within the computing area. Because strangely, we did once run this without, in the early days, the first run, I think we didn't have a topic list. We just sort of said, oh, pick a topic, expecting everyone to pick something within computing. And we got some very odd topics that weren't really what we would consider to be computing. So after that, we decided to lock it down with some actual computing topics for you to pick from. So the list is there. It's broad. Have a look, have a consider. One of the things I'd say about picking a topic is to do some research first, see if you can find any information out about several of these areas. And the one that you can find a lot of information out about is probably the one to go down, because when you're doing research, it's useful if you can find a lot of information on the topic you are researching. So if you pick a topic that's a bit too narrow and a bit too difficult to research, or it's not really finding anything, it's hard to kind of dig in and find that information, or you find it not very interesting, or it doesn't really sing to you, then I would say, well, move on, have a look at another topic. Because at this stage, you can pick any of those 10 areas, and it's kind of broad, and it's good to pick something that actually works. We don't want to make it too hard for yourself. So do have a look at the various different topics and have a consider about which one you think you can find the most about and which one's more interesting to you and so on. So it's not a thing to take lightly. Do spend this week deliberating on what topic area you might decide to do. Let's go back to the module. We'll go back to the actual module materials. Hopefully. There we go, it's loading. Okay, so go back to the computing folder. So like I say, the assessment date, the themes, we've talked about the assessment brief. We do have a module schema, which just simply breaks down what we're covering each week. And we can just have a quick look at that. And you'll see again, the coursework is there. Oh, I just noticed a slight error. I'll correct that. It says week 14. It's actually week 12 for the report course. So we'll just correct that. I don't know why it says that. I must have a little typo. But week by week breakdown. So week 1, week 2, week 3, and so on. And each week it just sort of says what we are looking at. And it does also say on here, actually, this is something that has changed apparently. The Learning Development Unit used to provide some central skills lectures and seminars. Apparently they are not doing that at this point due to the pandemic, really, in terms of resourcing and so on. So I'm afraid those are on there, but they're not actually running. But of course, we're going to record our little presentations and so on. So everything else is. So for this week, like I say, introduction to writing a research report. That's me. I'm going to be doing that little recording and taking you through really what is a research report, what makes good research report, and what are the key sections that you should be included within your work. So that'll be a separate presentation that I'll record and put into the folder that I'll show you in a minute. I hope to do that in this week and get that out to you. I will email out when that is ready to roll and it's there. But yeah, so that's this week's topics. And then next week's on planning and conducting your research inquiry. And that's going to be my colleague Nick, who's going to record that one. And then we'll probably just alternate. So I'll do one, then he'll do the other one. You can still contact either of us, but we just thought we'd take different sections of it. So the whole point is, you can see by the topics there, by the themes of our little weeks, we are trying to give you skills and help in terms of managing and running your research inquiry and carrying out your project. So all of these presentations that we're going to do are about carrying out the research on your topic area and things that are going to be useful to you in putting that together and doing it. So we're kind of using the assessment, the research report you're being asked to write, as a primary way of embedding your learning in it. So all these presentations link to that. Now there's quite a lot of different presentations there. I have actually left all the presentations open to you, so you can skip ahead and look at the slides, look at the materials that I've put in the folders. That's fine before we actually even get there with the recording of the session, as it were. So do look ahead. We cover out the 12 weeks, but some of these might be useful to you earlier on. So do look ahead and look at the materials as you go. There's one on Harvard referencing, for example, not due to do it until week 6. But you might want to have a look ahead at that, and like I say, look at the Cite Them Right, and just get yourself ahead a little bit in terms of looking at the materials in advance. So that just breaks down what we're going to kind of cover. So that's the module schema, and then underneath that we have we have a reading list. So this is a folder that contains reading, reading in the sense of these are good textbooks that we recommend that you should have a look at or purchase or access an online copy if there is one. Good things to have. At the top of that, though, I do have this little Cornell notebook. So the Cornell notebook here, these link out to Amazon, by the way. If you click on it, it's just and I only link to Amazon because I know a lot of students use Amazon Prime or Amazon Student to buy stuff. So I've just linked there. You can buy it anywhere you like. I just linked to Amazon to give you an idea of what these things are and where you can purchase them if you want to. The Cornell notebook is just a notebook that's set out for Cornell note making. I think the Cornell note making system is very good. I think it's a nice way of actually making notes while you're reading and carrying out your research. So I recommend the Cornell approach to note making, and it's a system I'll talk about when we do the note making session. And I've just given you a link to a notepad that you can purchase, which is already set up in the Cornell format. They have a particular format. You can just take an ordinary A4 notepad and divide it up yourself if you want to. So there's nothing wrong in doing that. It's easily to divide it up yourself. Write it out. If you search for Cornell note making online, you will find templates and you'll see how it's divided up in the Cornell style. But this notepad is printed already in that style, and there are several. You can buy them all over the place. But I just thought it was useful to highlight. Underneath that, we have some books. These are books. These are all textbooks. So Projects in Computing and Information Systems, that's a Dawson book. Nice book, covers all sorts of things about projects. Now, I would say with these project books that we've put on here, some of these, or most of these, are actually going into doing research in terms of like primary research. So where you collect information, you interview people, you carry out questionnaires and so on. That's not something that we're covering in this module, of course. That's for later on. That will be for when you do your dissertation in your final year, or maybe a small project in the second year and so on. So they are very useful skills. They are very useful books in terms of supporting all that. They also cover all the stuff you will be doing for this module, which is the desktop secondary research, looking for information and so on. So they're good books which will see you through not only for this module, but for other modules and the final dissertation project that you have to do right at the end of your final year and so on. So they're just really good things that you should kind of have on your bookshelf for the 3 years. So they cover more than we're going to do here. So they're not, you won't find a book that just simply does desktop research, really, because it's too small an area. It's normally linked to a wider research project. So these books cover that as well. So Projects in Computing, it's the only book out there that's actually for computing students within projects. However, a lot of the things that you do in a computing project, you would do in other projects as well. So there's one on, next one is doing your undergraduate project. This is just a general book on projects for undergraduate students. And again, it says a lot of the same stuff as is covered in the first one there. So a choice really, either something a bit more specific on computing for the computing student or a bit more general. But again, you might look at both of them and make your own decision. The Bell book here underneath again is just another doing your research project. This is kind of a thinner book actually than the other two. And it's one of those, again, it says the market leading. I just took this from the Amazon site, but the market leading website. It really is, it's one of those books that everybody recommends to students, and it's been recommended for a long time. Not because we're lazy and we, not able to offer anything else, but because that's a really good book. That's a really nice introduction to research. So the Bell book is just one of those staples. I think when I was doing my my research work for my master's, I think I had that book on my shelf. It's an undergraduate book really, but it's an introduction to research, and it kind of gets you into it. So it's just one of those books that we have on our shelves all the time, and it's solid. The Cite Them Right book. This is the Cite Them Right, the Essential Referencing Guide. That's the one that goes in place of the website. So it's the hard copy book that the website is based upon. So like I said, I personally like a hard copy by the side as well, and I think that's worth a purchase. And then there's some general books on academic writing. So that's really useful for helping you to write in an academic way. And that's a really nice book. This Macmillan's Study Skills series is a really good series. And I think that's a nice step-by-step guide, as it says, to the writing process. So useful. And the other one, the final one there, Dissertations and Project Reports. Again, it's a step-by-step guide. Again, it's Macmillan Study Skills, which is a really good series. And this is Stella Cottrell. And again, she's a big name in these sort of books for student skills and student help and guidance and so on. So she's just one of these that writes out the books that are respected by lots of academics for helping undergraduate students. So a good name to do. So I think we've picked some solid text for you. Like I say, don't have to buy them all. Make your own selection. But I would say that if you had these on your shelf next to you, that would be a really good resource to have. So that's why I've put them there. So I'll go back to computing area. So that's under the reading folder. We also have the resources folder, and the resources folder is really links to lots of things. So we have some academic writing guides. These are from other universities, but I thought they were really good and well produced. So I've given you copies here just to save you having to go and find them. So they're useful. And there's some sample articles here. We'll talk about these when we get to the sort of data, talking about how to find the information. These are just information I found from one of the databases in the library, and it's really just to show the type of article you should be using, the quality of the sort of academic articles. So we'll talk about that at another point. University library databases. This folder contains all the links to all the databases that the university subscribes to, and this is kind of the core of your research work should be undertaken by accessing these databases and pulling information out of them. So it's not just a case of searching the internet, it's a case of using academic library databases which are on the internet, but they're accessible via subscriptions and institutional links that we provide. So that's kind of where we want you to do your main research work from. Oh, I've gone back too far. Let me just go back into computing. So that's under resources. And then, like I say, below that, we then have the weekly folders. So each week we've put up a folder. We've put the description of what in that folder on the front. And then when you go into the folder, you will find, again, that description, but you'll also find a link to the PDF, which is of the presentation. So this is my presentation for this week, which I will duly do a recording on and go through and provide a recording. And when I've done the recording, I will put that recording inside the folder and I will just link to it above. So it'll become another item. It will say, this is the presentation for week 1 and my presentations and Nick's presentation as well. We are recording our sessions and then we're hosting those recordings on YouTube because it's a great platform for video hosting. And we just link them back to the module area here. So we give you a link in from the week 1 folder or week folders to those presentations so that you can access it and watch it. The videos themselves on YouTube, they are not publicly, well, they are publicly available, but the links are hidden. We're doing what they call on YouTube an unlisted video. So we put it on YouTube, but it can't be found on YouTube indirectly via searching. You have to have the link that we provide to it. So we provide you the link in the module area here. You click on that link, you get the video. If you try and search for it on YouTube, you won't find it. So it just allows us to kind of control the content, so it's only going to yourselves, essentially. So that's what we will do for the recordings. But these are the presentations. Like I say, do look ahead. You can go over these and have a look and see what's there ahead of time. I encourage you to do that. I think it's really important. I've tried to make the slides, the presentations are very wordy slides. I put a lot of text into them because I wanted it to be recorded for you. So you had it on the screen, you had your notes, it was all there. You don't need to, you can go back over it again and again, and you get the important information from it. In normal times, we did it more discursive and we discuss with you and get you to write your notes. But because we're doing it recorded and we're trying to be a bit more, more supportive, because we're always supportive, but we're trying to give you stuff that you can use remotely and access and go back to and review. So I've put lots of text within those slides so that they're very texty, but it's all there on the screen so you can see it and you can read it and you can go through it, if that makes sense. So that's really what I'm trying to provide. So they're not particularly excitingly dynamic slides, I suppose. They're quite texty slides. But when I talk you through it, we'll talk a little bit more about it, and hopefully my recording of them will make them a bit more lively, perhaps, for you, and just talk around them. But it's all there as plain as we can make it. So we've got we've got presentations for all 12 weeks. Obviously, once we get to week 12, you're handing in at the end of that week anyway. So we try to stagger the materials so at least they're supporting you all the way up in a sort of a sensible order, really. So we're going through it in a sensible way. And that's it. So that's what's in the materials sections. For submitting your work, just so you know, there is on the general area a submit your assignment. And if you would look on that at the moment, you will see a submission point for the coursework 1 report. And you click on the view and repeat, and you just add it's like you added a file attachment to an email, really. So you just upload your work there, and that's submitted. So it's dead easy to submit online when you get to the end and finish that. Yeah, so that should be fairly straightforward to do. So, like I said, if there's any questions or anything you want to talk to us about, then obviously we are available. Best way is to email us. We can video chat or conference, or of course come back to you in various different ways. But I find normally the email works very well. If you have a specific question, we'll just ping you back a response to that. So that's sometimes easiest. If it's a bit more convoluted, we can arrange a chat. But I think in most cases, the information is there, or it will be coming to you. So but yeah, just stay in touch with us if necessary. Like I said, we'll be doing the first recording this week, and that'll be up, and I will email again once that's there and available. So welcome to the module, and hopefully it's all going to be fairly straightforward. So thank you again, and talk to you soon.